Hi, this is Richard Childress. This is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
Mr. Childress, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome in.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to this. It's been a good year in racing, so we're going to close it out here pretty soon and put 22 behind us.
Give me your thoughts.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you'll get ready for 22 for sure. It's been a long year, so you are justified in thinking that it's been almost 2 years. It's been difficult, obviously, for NASCAR and all that you've had to go through for the last couple of years. But give me your summation of kind of what you've just been through over the course of the last 2 years. I know it's like nothing else you've seen before.
No, not really. We've all been through different situations in life, and it's how you handle them and how you come out of them at the end of the day. And I think NASCAR has handled the pandemic, and we were one of the first sports to start back, and we were one of the first sports to bring fans back. I know wrestling, I think they brought some back earlier, but we were right there, and I think we set the stage for a lot of other sports on how they could get things started and get our fans back involved. And the fans love live entertainment, and that's what we were giving them.
How did your team adjust to the situation when things first changed now back in the spring of 2020?
I think it was difficult, really, because everyone was so used to going with a pattern for years after years after years, and changing that pattern took some thinking, some good mind thoughts put into it. And I think that we handled it as well as we could. Going to the race without any fans in the stand was so weird. I mean,
it must have been so strange.
It was so weird and strange. I went to one of the events. They wouldn't even let the owners come for the first 8 or 9 months. And then once I went and you see the stands were empty, you had television. It was really good entertainment on TV, but it just didn't feel the same. Going back to the tracks today, like we were at Phoenix, a sellout crowd, loud noises from the fans and the cheering and the booing, and all of that is what makes everything that really makes the race what it is.
What did it tell you about maybe the sport that, going into the pandemic and pre-pandemic, there was a lot of talk of where racing was and what needed to change. But now coming out of it and you see the strength of it, what did it tell you about the resiliency of the sport?
Well, NASCAR is still cup racing is still the number 2 sport. I think that if you look at where all sports are, where entertainment on TV with the streaming and everything coming, all sports are down. But how do you really measure a lot of that with as much streaming? I was sitting in the Northwest Territory fishing with a friend of mine, Johnny Morris, and we were sitting there watching the race at Darlington on a computer. So those kind of numbers don't show up. And I think that the sport, like all sports, are struggled a little, but they're going to come back. I've been through so much in this sport, from the gas shortage in the 70s to the 2008 when everything was upside down, and we've survived, and we're going to survive again.
You used the opportunity during COVID to really help out a number of people who had been impacted by the pandemic. And in fact, you had posted more than 50 items on eBay. For the first time ever, you had parted ways with the legendary Dale Earnhardt driven race car from your personal collection that raised nearly $500,000 for charity. That had to be just an enormously positive moment for you over the course of these last couple of years.
Yeah, Jason, I was sitting there one day. I was watching TV with a lot of things we couldn't get out at the time, and I seen the struggles of people lined up getting food at these different food banks in different areas. And I said, what can we do at RCR to make a difference and do something that would help the people that's out there suffering through this so much? And we were able to. I really gave it some thought. I've never gotten rid of one of the Earnhardt cars. I have 43 of them now. I had 44 of them. And I thought, if we put this on the Barrett Jackson, it would bring enough money. And I never seen the check. The checks were sent directly to the charities of our choice, which one was Feeding America, and the other one was Samantha's Purse, which they were out helping so many. And we just kept sending some of the money off of the stuff off of eBay that we raised that money to different local charities around here with that the feed the food banks and some stuff like that.
Enormously supportive effort in a very, very difficult time. And I know that the communities around the country really appreciated that. I want to talk a little bit about your history, if we could. Longtime NASCAR columnist Ed Hinton, who I have worked with in the past, he once wrote that Richard Childress is like a character out of Dickens. A little of Pip from Great Expectations, a lot of Oliver Twist, with a touch of the class of David Copperfield. But his is a tale told in America. What do you think of that? It's a very descriptive way to describe you, Richard Childress.
I'm just one of those guys that just like, I never think that there's anything special. I just go about life. Very proud of my family, very company oriented. I look at my family as a lot of everyone that works here, but Jason, I speak a lot. I got a big speaking deal coming up next Wednesday. And I always start out speaking by saying, only in America could a kid with a $20 race car and a dream be in on here right now with Cars and Culture with Jason Stein. So that's how you got to start out. We're all so fortunate to live in a country like we do, and known as America. And I'm telling you, I've been all over the world. Been to communist country. I've been fortunate to be able to do that. And boy, when you see what we have here, that's the reason these other countries don't like us, is because we have freedom. The one thing a lot of them don't have.
You also have a lot of perseverance. You were 5 years old when your dad died. And you said, from then on, I considered myself a man. And you said, I had to. There was nobody to go home to and whine about. Well, Johnny whipped my ass today. I had to fight my own battles.
Yeah, I did. And I think that made a better man. In life, you always have a turning point. And I could have took the road, that was not good. I've seen so many of my friends and people go down that road, and that isn't what I wanted. I've seen the brighter side of life. I had some good mentors in my life that I really looked up to, and I took that road that I knew that if I worked hard enough and put my soul in it, that I'd be able to go out and be able to give back to a lot of people and hopefully have some success at what I set my mind to do.
There were no free lunches in Winston-Salem, North Carolina in the 1950s. So what you did is you swept the hallways to earn your school lunch, cleaned the lunchroom, and sold peanuts and popcorn to support your family down at Bowman Gray Stadium watching local short track racing. And that's when the bug bit you, right?
Right, exactly. I was out there, stepdad carried us over there and said, boys, y'all want to watch this race? And we watched it. And next week we said, hey, we want to go back. Can we go over there? We want to get us a job and sell peanuts and popcorn. He said, well, if y'all want to go, you're going to have to walk. It was about 5 miles. Then 2 young kids out walking the road at night, going over there and coming home at like 11 or 12 o'clock. You just can't do that today. And I think just the experiences of all of that and how we went about it and how we were able to learn lessons in life, go out and earn your money when you're a kid. And that's what made a difference, I think.
You watched and idolized race car drivers like Junior Johnson and Curtis Turner, David Pearson, Cale Yarborough. And you just referenced it a moment ago, $20, and you started your own $20 for a taxi cab that you converted into a race car, a 1947 Plymouth, split it with a friend, and then did a coin toss to decide who was going to race.
Right.
And you won.
Yes. But the next week we went out and we became a 2-car team. We paid $40 And we had a bunch of our buddies pitch in $5 or whatever. And we went out and bought another car. So it became a 2-car team at that time. But yeah, it was just a dream, being a kid sitting in the stands, watching these guys race. And it was an old $99 claiming division. And I just kept working and just kept doing everything we could. And I had friends that were there helping me, and a bunch of old buddies. And we kept racing. We just loved it. We didn't know where the future would end up. Today, you look at where we're at today, and it all started with that $20 investment.
The $20 and the one-man team. You were the driver, you were the head mechanic, you were the chief engine builder, and everything in between, and slept in the back of a truck after a long day at the racetrack. You think about those times still today?
Yeah, I'll never forget where you came from or how you got there either. And
the fact you might get back.
Yes. And, you never forget where you came from, but always never forget how you got where you are. And we got where we are today by a lot of good people and having a lot of support by a lot of people. And it's this sport's about people, the drivers, the crew chief, the sponsors. There's so much that evolves into NASCAR racing, and that's what it takes.
There's a wonderful photo from one of your first weekends when you were a replacement driver in 1969. You took home $7,500, and you got a glass of champagne in your hand and a bologna sandwich. And I think when Ed Hinton wrote about you, and you might remember Jim Hunter, who used to be NASCAR's former chief publicist, he said that was kind of Richard Childress. Glass of champagne and a bologna sandwich.
Yeah.
And it was that humble nature that kind of kept you going as a driver. 285 starts, but you realized you could be an owner and you needed other drivers. Was that the turning point for you?
I think the turning point was I could see all of the new owners coming into our sport. Rod Osterlund, MC Anderson, Jim Stacy, on and on, Warner Hodgson. All these people were coming. Each time one of them would come in, it would bump me further back in the series. I could run a lot of top 10s. And then all of a sudden I was 12th, 15th. And I just wasn't having as much fun as I was out there racing. And I knew if I didn't do something, I would be out of business and out of the racing world. So I put the word out to R.J. Reynolds that some friends that I had there at the time were our series sponsor, that, I'd get out of the car if I found the right driver. Well, Dale Earnhardt's team was bought by J.D. Stacy. He bought out Ron Osterlund, and he didn't like being sold. So he let him know that he would come and drive for me, and we put a deal together that night in Anniston, Alabama, at the old downtowner. And then we went to Bristol and started racing. He raced the last 10 races for me in 2000, and that would have been 1981. And then put Ricky Rudd in the car in 82 and 83, and Dale come back in 84, and the rest of his history up to 2001 when we lost him in Daytona.
And Bud Moore was a longtime owner in the sport. He had a little bit of advice for you when you were talking about getting Earnhardt back. You remember what he said to you? Remember when at that 84 moment when you were going to take Dale back, and Bud looked at you and said,
"You're going to be broke or you're going to be out of business. One, he'll break you or put you out of business," something like that. Am I correct? I don't know what
you are. You are correct, and quite the opposite happened.
Yeah, it was at the Motel 6 in Riverside, California.
Standing on a balcony. Yeah.
And he ended up with Ricky Rudd, and I had Dale, and both of us had Wranglers for a sponsor.
And as you said, the rest was history. His first win, or the first win that you had together, came at Talladega in July of 84, and it was the first of 67 wins for Dale Earnhardt. And then the championships just flowed. 86, 87, 90, 91, 93, 94. What did Dale Earnhardt mean for you, not as a driver, but as a person?
First off, he was we had a friendship. that was built through the racing side of it. But I knew Dale before from a hunting club in South Carolina, and some of the folks that were in, the guys that were in there. And when the opportunity came along, it's a long story how we got together and all. Someday I want to write that book and tell the whole story. And the rest of the story, I guess, as Paul Harvey would say.
Sure.
But, to Dale, both of us had a similar background. And, we'd lost our fathers. I lost mine a little earlier. And we just built a bond between us, a trust, a bond. We trusted each other so much. And I know in 1985, we blew like 11 engines. And that's when he used to fly up an old King Air I had. And he would stay at my house the night before we'd get up and fly to the racetrack. And, I told him that evening we got back, we blew up at Pocono. I said, Dale, you got to go get you another job, man. You need to drive for somebody else. We're not good enough for you. I never will forget him. We were sitting on an old brick wall, and he looked at me and said, no, we started this together. We're going to end it together. So who would ever, that's the kind of man Dale Earnhardt was. If he told you something, he had plenty of opportunities to drive for other people. And I sure wasn't wanting it to finish like it did, but, life it is what it is.
You still live with that moment, I'm sure.
Oh,
every day.
Yeah. Even many days, sometime I don't think about him or a fan walk up or someone even today at lunchtime came up to me and said, man, I was a big Earnhardt fan, but I still pull for your grandson. I'm glad we didn't get rid of the 3. And, you get that, you get all kind of things from the fans. Then you get some fans. Met a guy, and I was in Beaufort, South Carolina Sunday, and he had an Earnhardt hat come over. He knows me, talked to me. He said, I hadn't been back to a race since we lost Dale. And I get that too.
And nobody would have blamed you if you had retired when Dale died and maybe gone up to that big ranch in Montana and maybe done something else, maybe a little big game hunting in Africa or Alaska. But you wanted to stay with it. Why was that?
It goes back to a hunting trip that Dale and I had. We'd left Rockingham. I think we'd won the championship. I know this had to be 93, I guess it was, and 93, 94. And we won the championship. We flew out to New Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico, and we were climbing a mountain, going, early in the morning, and his horse started slipping and it's a long story, and flipped over backwards. It knocked me off the mountain with his horse. And I never will forget, he come down there, he was white as a sheet, and he said, you're right, blood running down my nose. I said, yeah. He said, will you pull my horse off the mountain? We were holding on to the tails. That's the typical Dale Earnhardt. So we went on and hunted that day, and we both got elk. And I busted my sternum and, beat up pretty good. And that night we was sitting around the fireplace out there. And, I said, Dale, if I didn't make it off of this mountain, you would have had to went on to Phoenix and raced. And he told me, he said, if anything ever happens to me, you better go race. So I was standing on Bill France Jr.'s dock in Daytona Beach waiting to help bring his body back. And that hit me. So I go in and get on the phone. I called Bobby Hutchins, and I said, Bobby, get the car ready. We're going to Rockingham, have Kevin Harvick at my office tonight. And I said, paint the car white, call Nascar, get the lowest number they got. It happened to be number 29. But I told my wife the night before that I'm out of it. I'm done. I'm going to sell the team and go. I thought about what he and I talked about, and to answer your question, that's why I'm even here today, was that hunting trip on the mountain.
That's an incredible story.
Yep.
You put Kevin Harvick in the seat, as you said, and lo and behold, great things happen there as well. And RCR just continues to to charge on now, you know, years later, amazingly, right? 20 years later,
yep,
here we are. And I've got to imagine that if you reflect 20 years ago, you have fulfilled Dale's promise.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the sport was hurting so bad from the loss of an iconic star like Dale Earnhardt at the time. Nobody thought it could happen to them. When you're a race driver, you don't. But when it happens to someone like that, it changed a lot of things. And the fans were hurting. You could just see it. You could feel it. But I think when we went to Atlanta and won that race with Kevin Harvick, the third race, and he come around holding the 3 out, that was a healing moment. Then Dale Jr. goes on and wins. Dale Jr. goes on and wins in July. That was a healing moment. We had some healing moments. Nobody's forgot that or that day, the true fans, true friends. But there are healing moments in life, and you got to go on. And that's what we all have to remember in life.
And you're going on with a lot of strength now. Talk about the family connection that you have now within the team. I mean, this has got to be a very proud moment for you, Richard.
Yeah, it really is. You know, my wife works here. My son-in-law works here. Austin Dillon's driving for me. Ty Dillon drove for me. He's driving a team next year that we're working with. You know, it makes you proud to know that these kids, you know, standing in Daytona, Austin was standing on the trophy in 1998 when Dale won the Daytona 500. And for him to come back 20 years later and win that same race to the day is pretty amazing. And but, you know, Austin's won championships in the truck and the Xfinity. Now he's won that cup. And Ty won the championship in ARCA and won a lot of races and won the NASCAR, in Xfinity and truck. So it makes you proud to know that these young men want to go on and do what they're doing and what Dale would be proud to see them out doing. No different when Dale would have been he was proud of Dale Jr. for sure. I was with him standing on the truck in Texas the day that Dale Jr. won his first Xfinity race. He jumped, slam off the top, down to the ramp, and down from the ramp to the ground. He never took a step and ran the winner. So, it's proud moments, you know, like that really hits you.
NASCAR today. Yeah, I mean, you've seen the early days. You've seen the skyrocketing success of the 2000s. The dip, as I mentioned, pre-COVID, where there was a lot of consternation about where it was. Where are we today?
You know, I get that question a lot. I don't think the sport's been any brighter in my 50-some years. The talent that we have out there today, the young talent that's driving these race cars today, the whole fan base has pretty much turned over from the old school fans that was a Richard Petty, David Pearson, Cale Yarborough, Dale Earnhardt come along, and Darrell Waltrip and all of these guys. And now we've had that complete changeover. I've been very fortunate to see it about 4 times, maybe 5, with a young group of drivers we have today. But the new next-gen car, I think, we've been working on it here at RCR. We did all the testing up until the last couple of months. I think it has a bright future. NASCAR has so much to offer in the future to the fans for live entertainment. That's what the fans don't want to sit there and see a rerun from a year ago or last weekend or 2 days ago. They love live entertainment. And I think that's one thing that NASCAR has to offer, and it's going to offer some great shows coming up in the future.
Where are its biggest opportunities to continue to broaden out the fan base? And maybe it goes right back to the young drivers that are now in the sport.
I think reaching to a whole different market. And I think the iRacing, we picked up a lot of fans during COVID. You always got to find a positive in everything. Even losing Dale, if you look at a positive, the safety that has came out of that has been incredible. But during COVID, we did the iRacing on TV, which brought a lot of new fans in that couldn't go out or watching TV. And now our first race with this next gen car is going to be at the LA Coliseum. And it's going to be broadcast live on Fox. So those are the kind of things, and the whole schedule for 23 is going to completely change what we're doing. We're picking up more road racing, which is a whole new group of fans. And we're doing got some incredible TV stuff coming that's going to bring in new fans, no different than the show for Formula One. I'm sure you've seen it.
Drive to Survive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's really brought in so many new fans to Formula One, and NASCAR's looking at the same thing. And I think those are the things that are bringing the new fans.
Well, and it's a great point, because NASCAR has always been built on personalities. It's always been about the drivers. And if anything, what Drive to Survive showcases are the stories behind the stories and the people behind the sport. There's got to be an enormous opportunity there.
It is. And we have such a diverse group of drivers out there today with different backgrounds and different attitudes about driving. You got the good guys, you got the bad guys, you got the tough guys, you got the guys that aren't so tough, but they all have a story behind them. And this sport is probably it is the most patriotic sport in all sports, in my opinion. And I think that family oriented. You look when the driver's standing there, they got their kids, they got their family, they got their wives. It's a family sport, and I think that helps separate us as well.
And I'm reminded of the time during the early 2000s when that next crop of young drivers came in, and all of a sudden now we had the Jeff Gordons of the world, boy wonder, as Dale Earnhardt called him. That was a pivotal moment that really sent the sport into a completely new direction. And I'm guessing with this crop that's in there now and the Austin Dillons of the world, that there's an opportunity there.
It definitely is. You go back, I can't go, I don't have the time to go through them all, but you go back to the Lee Pettys and all the guys that were racing in that turned it over to Richard and that whole group of drivers, Cale and those, and they turned it over to Dale and Darrell, and they turned it over to Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart and Dale Jr. And then these guys have all retired out. Now they turned it over to the Chase Elliott's, the Dillons, the Larsons. These are tremendous amount of talent today, as good as I've seen in the sport in many years.
Richard, drivers have changed, but some of the owners, the real classic owners, are still out there. We've had a couple of them on this program. We've had Mr. Penske, we've had Mr. Hendrick, we now have Mr. Childress. We have the Mount Rushmore, if you will, of NASCAR on this program. Who are your peers? Who do you admire the most among your peers, I should say?
I got to go back to the France family, who actually made it possible for all of us, going all the way back to Bill Sr., Bill France Sr. in '69, when he stuck his neck out and built Talladega. The boycott happened and we raced there. Then Junior Johnson, going back to the days as he was an owner. And today, Rick Hendricks and I are really good friends. Roger Penske, all of us, you got a lot of respect for these guys. And, whoever's winning it all, that's who you got to say, hey, I want to beat them. I remember Rick Hendricks, when we was winning in the 90s, he says, well, I hope someday we can get out there and beat you guys. And, here they are today. They're the team to beat. So that's what you got to do. I mean, I got a lot of respect for so many of them.
We've had Joe Gibbs on this program as well, and his story is very similar to yours to some extent, from the starting off as the one shop race team that then expanded into so many other things. You have a very similar path to some extent.
Yep. Joe's another one that's paid his dues to be where he is today, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're all not getting any younger, as you mentioned, although some of us might feel younger some days than other days. But succession planning. How much do you think about succession planning? I've talked to Roger Penske about this. I've talked to Joe Gibbs about it. How does Richard Childress view succession planning?
I want to, hopefully we keep it in our family. If not, bring a partner in that would really like to keep RCR going, keep the family involved, understand the sport. But we're definitely talking about today's succession plans. If you don't, you'll be in trouble. So we have some ideas. The family, they want to keep running it. I think it's this place, like all big operations like this, we only have around 400 employees, but we're doing a lot of different things. And that's the reason I try to keep the family involved, to understand the challenges that goes on running an operation like this. It's one of the most, a race team is one of the most challenging things you could do, because we have so many mechanical parts and pieces to it. You have sponsorship that goes with it, and you have employees. So it's not like a football team where you got the players and the physical part of it. I'm just using football, baseball, any other sport. We're a very unique sport, and I think that's what helps make us a little different.
When you reflect back on these years, on these decades that you've been involved in this sport, first of all, you probably could have never envisioned succession planning at some stage. But what are you most proud of as a racing owner, or just being in the sport?
That's a good question. I get that question. I think I can walk down pit road. I can go in any meeting. I can look anyone in the eye and tell them that, I've shot it straight. I don't have to step aside from anyone because I don't want to face them. I've been as honest, as ethical in this sport as I can be. You don't make everyone like you. That's a fact. But, I think just being remembered as an ethical guy that helped do the right things, I've always wanted to give back and not just take. And that's what I'd like to be looked at and say, this guy was a real deal. He was here to help the sport, do something for the race fans, and he was a man of his word and honest.
And we go back to June 5th of 1983, and Ricky Rudd is behind the wheel at Riverside. It had taken you 14 years to find victory lane. It didn't take you long after that. That's got to be an enormous moment of reflection as you think about your career.
Yeah, winning that race with Ricky, I'll tell you a quick little story on that. We were in Martinsville, and we ended up getting in a beat and bang and deal with Joe Ruttman. And Ricky got out of the car, and he was all flustered. He was real young. He said, "I'll never win a race. I'll never win a stock car race." And so we carried him to Texas, College Station, Texas, for USAC race. And we won that race that day. And I think that turned Ricky Rudd and RCR's careers around. We come back, we knew we were winners. It wasn't a NASCAR race. And then we go to Riverside and win out there with Ricky. And we just kept building from there. The true story was known, how we got here with nothing, and just a lot of young guys not realizing what we were doing. We just wanted to go out and race and win and do good and have a good time. I used to tell people I didn't win many races as a driver, but I now never lost a party. So that probably hurt me a little bit. That was the Richard Childress side of it.
Well, and there's some good wine to bring to the party now, Richard, because unbelievably, your vineyard is almost 20 years that you've been running it. World-class winery, the Childress Vineyards. And you used to go out to Sonoma, obviously Raceway, and one thing led to another. And that passion for wines soon became a passion for creating the Childress Vineyards. Tell me a little bit about that. This show is called Cars and Culture. That's the culture part of Richard Childress.
Yes. I think going to Riverside in Ontario back in the 70s, where I really found the love for wine. Even back in those days, I quit drinking other things because I was partying a lot. But I really liked wine. And I said, someday if I ever get the opportunity to have the vineyards. We went to Sonoma, and then we went to the Finger Lakes. And I said, man, if I ever get the money, I want to open a winery. So the opportunity came in 2000, and we opened in 2003, and it's really doing well. People say you can't make it work, but it's a successful winery. Again, I go back to the people we have, our winemaker, our managers. All of those are the people that really make this work.
You also have a passion for charity work, both you and your wife, and you've been doing that for a long time as well. Tell me how important that is for you. You give a lot back.
Well, I think, it's not always what you can take, it's what you can give back. And I've been very, very fortunate to be able to do some of the things we did. Started the Childress Institute for Pediatric Trauma. It's the #1 killer of children in America. It still is today. Hopefully we've made a difference. We've had it started in 2008. Couldn't have started a worse time, but trauma is something that kids are going to get hurt, and a lot of lives are lost. And what we've tried to do is figure out how to stop it, and when it does happen, how can you treat it to where a child will have a normal life.
Yeah, amazing work that you've done. Let's talk about your car collection outside of your Earnhardt vehicles.
I have probably close to 100 cars. Have my personal museum. I have all kinds of stuff in it. I got probably one of them, the ones I'm the most fond of. I have a 57 original Black Widow. There was only 7 or 8 of those made. And I have one of those, and it was actually raced in 57. And I ended up getting it. It was one of Smokey Unique's old cars from 57, and really proud of it. And I got some hot rods. I got some cars I got from Dale, an old Cadillac. We did some trading. I traded an old bulldozer to Neil Bonnet for a little hot rod. I still got it. And just the memory behind some of these old cars. Dale Robertson, a great old actor going way back in the day. You're too young to remember him. But I got his Lincoln Continental, just some hot rods that we built ourselves and some cars. And just very fortunate. I got one of A.J. Foyt's cars. I mean, I got all kind of just different things, drag cars. I got Don Perdon, one of his dragsters.
Oh, sure, the Snake.
Just so many of those. And it's just fun to have them. And you go back to Succession. What do you do with this stuff? I walk through a room I have at my home upstairs, and got so many, many great memories, and I've kept them for that reason. And the family, at some point, I was talking to another very successful person. He says, what do you do? My family don't want all this. They don't want to be burdened with it. So what do you do? So that's in the succession plan on down the road.
You North Carolina guys like your car collections, because I was fortunate to see Mr. Hendricks' collection too. As you know, that is fairly world class as well.
Now that is a car museum. Mine's just a little personal deal, but it is unbelievable the collection that he's put together over the years. It's
so many Corvettes.
Rick and I really got so much respect for him as a person and as a team owner, but the things that he's done, and not only in the sport, other things, he's a great man, and we got a little business together now. So just looking forward to the future.
Wonderful. Just one more final thing. Let's go back to the 5-year-old where we started this conversation. I know that boy who is out selling peanuts in the grandstands is sitting here, and I know he's not getting comfortable. You got a lot of fight in you, don't you, Richard?
There's never a given in life, and I think I wake up every day wanting to go and do something and stay busy. I got up this morning and worked out at my age. I think you have to stay active, and I think the fight is a fight for life. How long you want to stay yourself. It isn't about the years you live. It's the quality of the years you live, I think. And that's what I've always used ever since as a kid. You want to be able to win the fight, And I talked to a friend of mine that was in one of the great generals in the Army, and he said, the difference in us when we go to battle, we can't lose. And with racing, we can go back the next week. So life's kind of like that, I think. We got to take every day and make a winner out of it, one way or the other.
How much are you looking forward to Daytona?
Excited. I'm excited about this new car. It's going to have its challenges. The fans are going to have to work with us to work through a few things. But I think that all in all, before the fourth or fifth race, you're going to see some great racing. And I think Daytona, we tested down there. The cars really work good there. I think the little short tracks are going to be awesome. They're going to beat and bang and bounce off each other. These composite bodies will allow you to do that a lot more. This car, Austin went out on the track at Charlotte. It's a test. The track was wet. Wrecked the car. In a normal wreck, that car would be sitting in the junk pile. We brought it back. From the time we went out there on the timer to the time we went back on the track at night, we replaced the front snout, the tail, and had the car back there in 9 hours back on the racetrack making laps. So that tells you some things about this new car, about the potential it has.
Wonderful. We look forward to it. We look forward to that, and we look forward to your continued success. And Richard Childress, thank you for being part of Cars and Culture. You are very much a part of the culture of the American racing landscape, and I appreciate having you on the program.
Thank you, Jason, and love cars and culture for sure. I'll have to be watching.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
The automobile is one of the most important inventions that revolutionized the modern world. In America, the rich history of car culture runs deep as technology continues to shape the future of the industry. Jason Stein, former publisher of Automotive News, is here to share the stories of people passionate about cars, from industry leaders and innovators to car-obsessed celebrities. Buckle up as Jason takes you inside the boardroom, onto the track, and around the bend on Cars and Culture on Sirius XM Business Radio.